Howdy, Internet. My name is John, and I've got a problem. My pantry, it's full of junk, garbage, and nonsense.
And my freezer, it's full of, yes, convenient, tasty, but nonetheless, processed nonsense.
And the top of my fridge, it's full of propaganda and lies.
And I'm gonna spend the next 30 days eating only real food in an attempt to figure out how we all got so sad.
Not that kind of sad. The standard American diet, which is also known as the SAD diet. What an unfortunate and convenient acronym. But hopefully, by the end of this video, we can make the American diet awesome. Short for America Wins Everything, so obviously, Meals Excel Diet. In all seriousness, let's start with why I'm doing this challenge in the first place. Reason number one, my energy levels, they're wacky. I know I'm not super young, but I'm also not old yet. I'm in pretty good shape, and my resting heart rate is above average for my age group. I run every day, and I go to the gym. But I still crash often, so I want to see if this will help to balance things out. Reason number two, I want to be sexy. 3 years ago, I lost 50 pounds, and by changing my diet and starting to work out consistently, I have kept the weight off, but I've hit a plateau. I want to look like Brad Pitt from Fight Club. Not like Brad Pitt if he got done filming Fight Club, broke both of his legs, and wasn't able to move for 90 days, Brad Pitt. Reason number three, I want to learn. It's easy to go on autopilot with your diet, but every time I do one of these experiments, I learn a lot about nutrition and our food system. And the last reason, reason number four, I've cut out sugar before, but I have an addictive personality. So whenever I give myself rules, I just generally spend most of my time trying to find loopholes. Like when I cut out sugar, I did eat better, but I also spent a lot of time in the grocery store looking for ultra-processed snacks and fried food that didn't have any sugar. So I want to see if I can finally make an impactful shift in my eating habits. So now you know why. Let's figure out what some of the rules are. Here are the rules for the next 30 days. Rule number one, no added sugar, no fake sugar, no sugar substitutes, no fruit juice. Rule number two, no oil. I cannot cook with oil and I cannot have any food with oil in it. And that leads us to rule number three, no processed food, which honestly, I cannot think of a single processed food that doesn't have oil or sugar in it. So that part shouldn't be too hard. After I'd set some rules for myself, I set out on my journey and it actually went pretty well. I was really excited about the challenge and I started noticing the benefits right away. It's towards the end of day one and I'm getting ready to cook dinner and I am so mad. But Alexis, God bless her, she pointed out, she's like, you're probably just detoxing from sugar. I was like, it's only been a few hours. But yeah. I'm so mad. It's wild that as a result of eating the way that I was, that whenever I decide to reroute and change the diet, that it is having such a insane effect on me. I kind of know what to expect, and being irritable is definitely part of it, and right now I am so irritable. Just so mad. Ugh. Fine, if you want drama and the truth, it was legitimately pretty terrible the first few days. I was constantly hungry and I didn't honestly prepare enough for this challenge. 2:30, almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a smoothie, but I'm angry as hell. And this is the time when I would just grab chips or, I don't know, I would, day 3 or 4 and my God. It's going okay, but it's definitely harder than I thought it would be. And I thought it would be pretty hard. I should have scheduled time to prep food and I should have learned more about how to cook with all the rules I was giving myself. But I was trying to figure it out as I went along, which isn't fun to do when you're hangry and detoxing from sugar. It's just the pull to say, fuck it all and give up and go back to eating how I was. After nailing down a few recipes, I was honestly starting to have fun with the diet, and then life happened on day 6. And instead of prepping food and making myself lunch, I had to drive across town because one of the kids left their shoes at a volleyball tournament and I had to go across town during the small window of time to go and grab them. And I found myself back at home starving and in a hurry again. So I was like super hungry, freaking out. Like, how do I cook? How do I saute my lunch without oil? So I just took kidney beans and threw them in the pan and let them heat up for a little while. Then I crumbled up tofu and then added spinach and a little bit of turmeric. Yes, I said tofu. I'm plant-based and I'm the only person in my house who is, so if you're bothered by tofu, just pretend I said chicken. Also, I'm aware that tofu is processed. Canned food, like beans, are also processed because it literally takes a process to put the food into the can. And I was thinking about all of this while I was eating my slop. I don't think the kids would ever eat this. I think if I had people over and I gave it to them, they would think,
I'm never gonna come to your house for dinner again.
And I felt confused. And I also felt like I was failing my experiment. And it was at this point, I didn't really care too much. I just wanted to power through my terrible lunch. I went to grab some hot sauce to try and mask my disappointing meal, and then I read the back of the bottle.
Orange, pear, apple cider vinegar, garlic, onion, olive oil. Fuck! This hot sauce is so good, but it has olive oil in it.
I was literally less than a week into this experiment, and I was so frustrated and just hangry all the time. But I didn't want to give up on trying to eat clean, so I messaged my internet friend and doctor.
My name is Dr. David Wiss. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist in private practice here in West LA, and I'm the founder of the Wise Mind Nutrition app, which is a mobile app on Apple and Google using nutrition to improve mental health based on lifestyle medicine in my clinical practice. I also am a mental health scientist, and I do some research on addiction like eating disorders, etc.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wiss, for taking the time to talk to me. I'm actually kind of in a pickle, and pickle is kind of a funny thing to say because I'm doing this diet, this experiment for 30 days where I'm cutting out all processed food, sugar, and oil. And I'm kind of confused, freaking out, honestly, because like pickles, for example, they don't have oil and they usually don't have sugar, but they are processed because pickling is processing. And thoughts like these are making me freak the F out. One of the working titles for this video that I'm doing is I only ate real food for 30 days. So could you give me any guidance on what that diet would actually look like?
Well, one important nuance there is that most people, when we think about, I've done research on food addiction, we now call it ultra processed food addiction because we have this new classification system. Most people, when we use the term ultra processed food, think about cookies, cakes, snacks, chips, sodas, etc. But ultra processed food also includes that whole world of diet foods that you see lining the shelves at the market. So the fat-free salad dressing, the sugar-free Jell-O, the low-calorie protein bar. You get it? And so in many ways, one could argue that ultra-processed foods are, you know, when people say eat real food, you're basically saying don't eat ultra-processed foods. And that includes highly palatable foods, as well as fake foods, or what we call diet foods.
I then asked Dr. Wiss, what foods should I be avoiding, especially during this 30-day experiment? He told me that the more food is altered, the less nutritional value it has, and he also told me that the concerns over ultra-processed food is actually not a new thing.
There's been popular press of these terms in the last few years, but they've been around since the 70s. You know, functional practitioners, alternative practitioners during that time posed concerns about food processing on food quality.
Oh no. But what's for dinner?
Let's see. We've got fried chicken, turkey, Salisbury steak. Not bad.
But it's since 2009 that researchers from Brazil at the University of Sao Paulo defined ultra-processed foods using what's called the NOVA classification, which separates foods into 4 categories: unprocessed or minimally processed foods, processed culinary ingredients, which are like sugar, salts, fats, flavors added to foods, processed foods, which is category 3, which is a combination of category 1 and category 2 foods. So it's taking an unprocessed or minimally processed food and adding something to it to make a processed food. And then ultra processed food is category 4. These are foods that are generally not able to be produced at home. So they're made by a series of large scale industrial practices, which I think is a lot of the reason for concern, some of these industrial practices. So yeah, I personally don't eat any diet foods. I'm not into artificial sweeteners or fake foods or any kind of reduced fat, reduced calorie foods.
After my talk with Dr. Wiss, I started to reevaluate my diet. I realized I was probably unnecessarily demonizing processed food, and this was causing, honestly, massive confusion.
The biggest priority going forward with the diet is real foods, as close to them being in their natural state as possible. I'm gonna do some whole grains.
I want to show you these 2 charts. You can screenshot these, or you could Google healthy processed food without sugar, oil, whatever your dietary restrictions and needs are. For the remainder of the 30 days, I avoided sugar, fried foods, and anything that would fall into the category of being an ultra-processed food. And
I'm gonna keep learning and exploring, and I'm not gonna put any added sugar into my face. I'm not gonna eat any synthetic food. I'm gonna avoid oil at all costs.
literally the day after I filmed that journal entry, both of the kids asked if they could spend the night at other friends' houses, which is very rare that Alexis and I have a night in the house without kids. So we went out for a date night and acted like adults. And well, Alexis and I went out to a restaurant, and this is where honestly having a super restrictive diet provides the biggest challenges. Always. I avoided indulging in the fried chips that were brought out for her meal, but I ordered myself pasta with veggies and just tried to stay as close to the diet as possible. Later, I went home and made myself air-fried tortilla chips with organic oil-free corn tortillas that I'd bought previously. I then really started thinking about my diet going forward and how I want to practice living more by the 80-20 principle, and I thought of Dr. Wist telling me about the ebbs and flows of his diet, even as a nutritionist.
I've definitely had my fair share of indulgences throughout my life, and I go through periods when I'm doing more or less of it. And certainly with a pregnant wife, you know, there tends to be a little bit more of that.
Hey, quick little plug before I share the rest of the results and the conclusion of the experiment. If you want to see a detailed, itemized daily food journal from what I ate during the experiment, if you want to read my journal entries that I took like a madman during the experiment, and if you want to listen to the entire conversation I had with Dr. Wiss, there's a link to my Patreon in the description of the video. That would help a lot and help me make other videos like this to help people like you and to help me. Back to the video. My energy levels after 30 days of clean eating were honestly pretty remarkable, after I got through the very difficult detox phase, of course. And as far as sustainability goes, while I have returned to indulging in some of the greatest gifts of American culture and cuisine, I have also made a habit of trying to hunt out healthier foods in situations where I would normally just eat snacks. One habit that I developed during the challenge that stuck with me is prepping food. I've honestly started prepping food way more often. Typically, I'll just make double portions of healthy dinners and have those for lunch. If you're new to cooking and want to try this diet, instead of doing a 30-day challenge, I would recommend replacing one meal a week and just making extra to start replacing more meals with clean food. But what about the most important goal I set for myself? Did I achieve that?
Do I look like Brad Pitt from Fight Club when I take my shirt off? Absolutely not. I'm not going to take my shirt off, and I would like to argue that maybe aesthetics are not the reason that you should do a diet like this. You should just do it because you want to feel good on the inside. And while I do believe that, if I had an 8-pack, I would take off my shirt right now in a second without any hesitation. So if you're thinking about doing something like this for yourself, definitely research, definitely come up with some plans of attack and some recipes. Make a list when you go to the grocery store, because the second you walk into any grocery store, there's nothing but ultra processed food and sweets from the second you walk into the door, because these people want you addicted, they want your money. And it's honestly a super intense and difficult struggle and cycle to break. And remember that long-term change is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and I love your face. I hope you stay awesome, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.